doctor's Hive clinic, who therefore
Can you
we're
pause
doing
that for a
the
second?
yard is Mike.
Okay, the bee doctor, you saw that in the advertisement. I'm not a rash doctor. I don't look at rashes or fungus or anything like that. I'm not that kind of doctor. I'm not an optometrist. I'm what you call a semiotician. That's what my doctor's in, and that basically means a study of science. So I kept and my dissertation was about beekeeping and discipleship. So I merged those two things together. And so technically I am a doctor, but I'm not the rash doctor. And people don't call me doctor, they just call me Matt, which I prefer.
Dr. Matt.
Anyway, so just to say, why does he call himself a doctor? Because I kind of am, but there's a reverend doctor. It's not just, okay. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew when you see the bee doctor, it's not a rash guy. Anyway, let's watch it.
Welcome to the bee doctor's Hive clinic. Who you see there, what we're doing at this bee yard is Mike and I are going through these colonies.
I'm the one on the left, and he's the one on the right.
Checking out young nurse bees from the cell builder so we can raise queens. Right here, we're looking at a frame of pollen. And this frame of pollen is what one of the frames we're going to use in the cell builder, because we fill the cell builder full of nurse bees, and those nurse bees need something to eat. And typically, well, always, young nurse bees need pollen. Just found a queen on the brood frame, so I picked her up, and I'm going to go put her back in the colony. And Mike is going to take those two frames and shake it through that pink box right there, which has an excluder down it. When you're making a cell builder, you always shake bees through an excluder, because you never know. Find a queen, there may be another queen in there. So all the older bees will fly up, and all the younger bees that haven't flown yet will go down into your cell builder through that excluder. Now we've already shaken one yard at this one. This is the second yard we're shaking to make this ginormous cell builder. There's another frame of brood, beautiful frame of brood, got a few bees on it. We're gonna shake those. And that colony there we're looking at, it's not quite big enough. You see there's some empty frames on either side of those middle frames. That's a frame of honey, which we already have in the cell, but we don't need. So we're not going to shake those bees because, well, they end up flying back to that colony anyway. And there's a queen right there. So I'll pick her off there and put her back in the colony. The only ones that can raise queen cells, because they're the only ones able to make royal jelly and wax. Older bees have aged out of the wax production. Those are bees hanging that we've shaken. That's why I put that blue ventilated box down on the bottom, it's so I can put more bees in there. We're looking through the excluder just to make sure we didn't drop a queen in there. Mike was smoking the bees in that box there, pushing down. Now we've finished our cell builder, and the only thing left is to graft, and we'll show you that in just a second. There they are, the two bee guys, and Hannah's got the camera, and there's the cell builder. And we set the cell builder out on the slab, which we'll look at during class. Lots of nurse bees. The cell builder's full of bees, plus these bees hanging out on the entrance. But these are just the right age bees to make the wax and the royal jelly that we're going to need to feed the graft that we're about to put in there. And basically, we find a nice queen in the yard that's got a nice colony. We still frame her for brood. First stage, the larva stage, and we're going to graft out of that. Put those frames with cells in them in this colony for the bees to draw out the queen cells. There's me picking through a frame to find the right age larva. And so we're going to graft 90 cells. The older larva you see is capped there, and it gets younger as it moves towards the outside. And there's my grafting bar with my cups on it. And I'm going to place that right in the center of that cup. You see how I push the needle? The thing about grafting is women do it better than us men do because they have more nimble fingers and they're more delicate. But basically, you don't put the larva on top, fully on the needle. Push the needle underneath the larva all the way because then you can't get it off. So you only put half the larva up on the needle, and then you that technique of pushing it up. And then now he's putting the cell frame into the beehive, and there's pollen frames on either side of that. And then he's gonna put another one in here shortly after we're done grafting it. That colony there doesn't have a queen in it, so they're gonna make one. There's no brood in that box. Only brood you give them is the larva that I gave them in the grafting frame. Quite a unique process, but you need lots and lots of pollen, lots of honey, lots of nurse bees in order to make a good cell builder. So we should probably about 15 colonies, I suspect, into that cell builder. So there's lots of bees in there. But what we're trying to do is trying to master here. One is we're gonna overcrowd this cell builder with so many bees that it puts them kind of in a swarm cell phase. And number two, we're denied them a queen. So there's no pheromone walking around the colony. So they're gonna wanna build a queen, but they don't have anything to build the queen on until we put our cell frame in there. And so their inclination is to build a queen because that's their future. So we grafted 90, we should get at least 80, I would guess, queen cells. This is the process, and it's a lot of fun. But this is what good management of your bees is. Thank you for watching.
That's basically what I explained, and if I understand it better. That's me explaining it better, and thank you to Hannah for putting it together. She took out a lot of my sarcasms and stupidity and all of that, or redundancy. Okay, any questions about that?
Do you have a regular bottom board underneath your green box?
No, it has a bottom on it.
Okay.
So you trap the bee, basically, you shape more in there so you can get more, and that's why they're thin. So you get some airflow through there.
When do you remove that?
As soon as I set, wherever I'm gonna set my cell builder, I go ahead and put a bottom board down, and I take the cell builder off this, and I set it on a bottom board, and then I take the bees that are in here, and I dump them on the entrance. And then they walk into the
So
cell.
obviously you're not worried about them flying because they're nurse bees.
That's right.
Okay.
And any ones that fly off, they can fly off because they're not serving any use.
So they're trapped in that shelter.
They're trapped, that's their colony, without a queen. And so, what happens is, when you do that, the bees don't have the pheromone in there, and they don't have larvae. And they're, I think I said this earlier, they're roaring. They have a roaring sound. As soon as you put that graft in there, shut that lid, come back, the whole colony goes.
And they know where their jobs are.
They know their future. They know they have it. And you're introducing the right age larva in there for them to make queens. Because if they're older, they make inferior queens. The larvas, if they're older, they make inferior queens. They have to be the right age. Okay?
And the issue with eggs is no royal jelly.
Well, here's the thing about, that is an issue. But when you're grafting, and I'll show you how to do it, but there's a needle that you got in your little bag I talked to you about earlier. It's called a Chinese grafting tool. It's got a little plunger on it. You basically, if this is the cell wall right here, you go down the side of the cell wall and you get up underneath the larva and you pick it up out of there without dragging it on the other wall. So if I go in there with that German grafting needle, which I had, this is the tricky part, and this is why I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think women will be better at this. Because their little fingers, they can get in there and get up underneath that larva without pushing it to the other wall. Because once it hits the wall, it sticks. And then if you turn the larva upside down, say I graft it and I pull it out of there and I've rolled it up the wall, if I set it in the cup, if it's upside down, she'll drown. So she has to be the same orientation she's in the cell, she has to be in your cup. So you basically you reach down the cell wall and you get up underneath her and then you just kind of pick her up without pushing her over to the wall. Because once you push her to the wall, it's hard to get her out of there and without damaging her. So you gotta be real delicate when you do this. This is a German grafting needle. You have Chinese grafting needles. I don't like them, maybe because of my hand size, I don't know. But I like this one where I I can squeeze it when I'm irritated. You know what I'm saying? I can really control it because it's metal when I get up underneath the larva. So we're gonna go out and pick some right age larvae and we're gonna take a flashlight or two out so we can see, because it is overcast. If it's a sunny day, you can pick that frame up with the sun behind you and you can see the right age. But when it's darker, it's like, and it's dark cone, you're like, is there larvae in there? You gotta push your little light pen in there to see the right size. But we'll pick up 3 or 4 frames and everybody will get a shot at learning how to graft. Is that okay?
Amen. Just so everybody understands one thing, he did 90 of those, right? How many do you think you wiped on your shirt or your pants that weren't right?
That's the thing good for picking teeth.
Now, I'm not saying he's a bad
Can you take a picture of me picking the meat out of my
I
tooth?
did, yeah.
but I'm just saying, you get one that's wrong, and I learned this by watching him do that. He did that Monday sitting at that table right over there. And when he was doing it, every now and then I put on his pants or his shirt just to,
I mess up.
He got it backwards or it turned or he didn't like it, it's too old.
It's too
I
big.
mean, if you get one that's 2 days older, that's one
It
that's gonna be
shouldn't
born.
look like something you could go fishing with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't look like a June bug before it's a June bug. It shouldn't be like a drone. Like, my God, look at that thing. I had a guy one time, I don't know if I told you all this, but he was grafting, he was sitting behind me, and he said, "Hey, is this the right size?" And he pulled his grafting needle around to where I could see it. I said, "My gosh, you can't even see the needle." I mean, you couldn't see the head of the little needle there. It's like, no, dude, you can go fishing with that thing, but that's not the right size. Anyway, so they're really tiny when they're born. And when are they born?
Day 30.
They're on their 4th day.
That was my question.
Yes.
You were looking for.
Egg for 3, and then they hatch into a larva. Egg for 3 days, and then larva.
Well,
And that's what we call a 4-day-old. It's not a 4-day-old larva, it's a 4-day-old. Because a 4-day-old larva looks a lot bigger than that. Yes, sir.
So when you're taking your grafting frame from the box over there, you have all 45. Are you looking for something specific on those to pick the best ones?
No. I'm taking the bars out one at a time when I'm making the splits. And as soon as I got all the splits, one off in this one off in this one off in this one, I'm not looking. You can what they call candle them. And what you do is you pull up the bar and you take a flashlight on the back side of it, and you can look and you can see those queens moving. And if you see one that if you see one that's down at the bottom, dead. The queen died, she fell to the bottom of the cell. So you can, what they call candling. Now, I've made these with wax. That's the old school. If you're that kind of person, if you're an old school person, I can teach you how to do it, but it's gonna cost you, because it's a lot of time. But you basically, those little cups you got, it basically looks like that. It's this size. See those little fingers that pick the right up? I couldn't grab it. Anyway, I dropped it again. It's basically a 3/8 inch dowel rod that's beveled down on the end. And you dip it in wax and make little cups that look just like that. But that takes a while to do. And then you dip the back part of the cell down in wax, and then you set it on these bars. That's how the old school used to do it. Can you imagine raising thousands of queens like that? That's how my great-grandfather and grandpa had to do it. They didn't have these, 70 years ago, 80 years ago. When
They
they,
just put it in a regular cell.
they made a cell out of wax.
Did they put those on a bar?
Yes, they dipped the back end of it in wax, and then they set it on the bar, and then it adhered to the bar.
So in nature, like when a queen dies in the hive,
I'd rather do this. Much more, go ahead.
don't the worker bees like grab 2 of the queen's eggs
if it's a supersedure, yes. But a lot of times, those queens, before they die, they'll deposit an egg down in the supersedure cell. Cause the bees are gonna get rid of them. They don't like them for whatever reason. Okay,
So then how do you transfer the queen cell into your split hives? Where do you put it in your hive?
right in the middle.
It's just, you take the cap, so you just, this has a cell on the end,
Yeah.
this little cap, and then you just put it on.
So, you know, when you make it up, this box will have 2 frames of brood right here, and then a honey here and a foundation here, foundation frame. These 2 brood frames right in the middle, you set it right in between, right in the middle, just set it right
This
there.
just has a
Just
cell
like
on
that.
the end, and then you kind of squeeze it in between two.
You don't have to squeeze, you just set it in there. Yes. That's right, it just hangs, what does it look like then? It looks like a swarm cell,
Swarm cell, yeah.
hanging down, right? And you can take a frame of brood out and then stick the cell in the frame of brood and set it back down there, but it doesn't, I've had it work either way, you just set the cell right there, put the lid back on and give them a syrup and off you go.
But you gotta feed them.
Yes.
As soon as you feed one.
Yeah, they take cells better if you feed them.
Pardon me?
Cell acceptance is better if you feed them. Now, if you ever wanna know how to trick a beehive to take a queen, you know how to do that?
Is it the vanilla trick you told us?
I just put the little cage in there and make sure that she's not squished up, you know, and the other bees can't get the sugar.
Right, but sometimes they won't accept their ball her up. And they'll kill her. You know how to prevent that?
No.
Here's a trick, here's a trick. You get your old queen, you pinch her, you throw her out, and you take a bottle, a little spray bottle with a little light syrup in it, and you put a couple drops of vanilla, swish it around, and you spray the tops of those frames and the bottom of the other ones, and you stick that queen down in there. They think that you put their queen in a cage. They can't smell. It messes up their whole sense of smell when you do that. That vanilla is so powerful. They can't tell if that's their queen or not. They just think you put their queen in a cage. And so your acceptance goes up, way up, when you introduce a queen to a colony. Just an old trick.
What did you put in the soup?
Vanilla.
Vanilla.
Just a couple drops. It doesn't need much, because you know bees have a heightened sense of smell.
You do that with factory bees?
Not long. But you want them to take your queen and you just pay $40 for it. Right?
So I have
They
a
will kill her. Or they'll kill her. Okay, so there's a difference between a mated queen and a laying queen. Okay, then they can smell the difference. There's a difference between a virgin and a laying queen, and they can smell the difference. So if I'm a bee breeder and I catch a queen and I put her in a cage, she's mated, but she becomes non-laying.
Cause she knows she's confined and she starts losing weight to fly.
No, she becomes non-laying.
Oh, she has no feeling.
Right. She becomes non-laying when you put her in that cage. And when you buy her, she's a mated queen but non-laying. And the bees can smell the difference. So when you put her in there, if you just taken out a mated and laying queen, they can smell the difference. That's why you trick them. That makes sense?
So by tricking them,